Scuderia Ferrari approaches the Qatar Sprint race, the last of the 2024 Formula One World Championship, with the desire to give its best. Unfortunately, qualifying went poorly for the Maranello team. The reasons are mainly attributable to two factors. We refer to the inability to manage the environmental conditions of the competitive context, and consequently, to the activation and maintenance of the target temperatures on the tires. A scenario already seen and bitterly experienced during other race weekends, where the two SF24 cars were unable to extract maximum performance. And it is truly a shame, because at the 5.419-kilometer Lusail International Circuit in Qatar, the Italian side could have done well. The potential is there, and this could even be seen as good news. Nonetheless, the usual inability to perform at their best dashes the hopes of the prancing horse in nurturing the dream of the Constructors' World Championship. McLaren was and has proven to be the favorite. Today, in the sprint race, it clearly aimed to secure a 1-2 finish that could seal the title for the British team. Ferrari will have the chance to adjust the setup of its cars before the second qualifying session, a move that the Maranello team now intends to make but did not consider worthwhile yesterday. And yet it was, because the cooler-than-expected temperatures at the Lusail track created a scenario different from what was anticipated in the simulator. There's nothing left to do but push and give it everything, as Ferrari team principal Vasseur stated in the usual pre-weekend discussions with media from around the world, because until proven otherwise, in modern Formula One, you never know what might happen. Maximum focus, clarity at the start, and a race in which damage limitation must be the goal. This was the target of a team that can still perform well over the course of the Qatari weekend. Now let's take a detailed look at how events unfolded for the two Ferrari drivers in the Qatar Sprint race, based on the onboard footage from the two SF24 single-seaters. There are now only a few minutes left before the start of the 100-kilometer race. The cars are lined up on the starting grid. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are about to climb aboard their cars after reviewing the latest information with their respective engineers. It will be interesting to see how the start is managed. On one hand, the need to push to recover some positions at the start. On the other, the necessity of not excessively stressing the tires, thereby shortening the useful life of the rubber, which, it should be remembered, must last the entire stint without being replaced. Hence, the need to manage them as effectively as possible. Let's take a look at the general conditions before diving into the narrative. The air temperature is 21.4 degrees Celsius, and the track surface temperature is 26.7 degrees Celsius. Humidity is fairly high at 53%, and the wind blows from the north at 3.8 kilometers per hour. We are waiting for the reconnaissance lap. It is worth pointing out that the track surface is about 5 degrees Celsius warmer, and temperatures will rise significantly during the race. It will therefore be interesting to understand how tire degradation is managed. Routine communication checks are taking place, with Carlos Sainz taking the opportunity to discuss the front wing in relation to the downforce load installed on the front end to ensure proper balance. The Ferrari drivers are informed that everyone in the top 10 has chosen the scrubbed medium compound. The same tire used by the two SF24S engines are fired up. During the installation lap, the goal is to reach the target temperature before repositioning on the starting grid. Carlos Sainz performs 4 burnouts to heat his rear tires, while Charles does 4.5. We are ready, waiting only for the green light. The Spaniard gets off to a poor start and, in trying to defend against his teammates' attacks, slightly hinders him, allowing Lewis Hamilton to take advantage and pass Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri shows great skill, overtaking George Russell at the start, putting the two McLarens in command of the race. The grip for the Italian cars is not great. Moreover, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are instructed to save tires in turns 9 and 14. Observing the dashboard of the Ferrari cars, it is noticeable that the tires remain below their ideal temperature until lap 3, when the compounds begin providing more grip. Extra care is advised for the tires in turns 5 and 12 as well. The two Ferraris gradually gain confidence. Carlos Sainz closes in on the top 3, while the Monegasque driver remains behind Lewis at a safe distance for the time being. Saturation in turn 7 must be monitored in this Formula One era that many call tire formula, which consistently repeats the same tiresome thread, significantly limiting performance. An extra gear in turn 4 for the Spaniard, 1 point less on the mid-corner differential for Charles Leclerc to aid rotation. These are the suggestions given to the Ferrari drivers on lap 7. The mini-race is rather predictable. Nothing noteworthy happens at the front. With 10 laps remaining, it appears the Monegasque is closing in on Hamilton's Mercedes. Gradually, the pack compresses, with the top 6 cars within a 5-second span. Charles Leclerc pushes hard and on lap 12 manages to overtake his future teammate using the drag reduction system at the end of the main straight. Carlos Sainz attempts to close in on George Russell, who in turn is glued to Oscar Piastri's rear wing. Interestingly, the 2 Ferrari cars are not suffering from understeer, while the 2 McLarens exhibit slight over-rotation, mainly due to their aggressive cornering. The race slips away with just 3 laps remaining. The Spanish driver did not relent for a moment but was never able to challenge the drivers ahead. Meanwhile, the Monegasque reclaimed the position he lost to his future Ferrari teammate at the start of the Qatar Sprint race. George Russell made numerous attempts to overtake the Australian driver in front of him, but the latter defended skillfully throughout. Regardless of whether one likes the sprint race format, this track does not seem suited for it, given the layout and environmental conditions that limit excitement. Scuderia Ferrari therefore pays a heavy price for a poor performance in the sprint qualifying session on Friday. McLaren secures 15 points with a 1-2 finish, while the Italian side, with 4th and 5th places, only earns 9 points. This means the gap of 24 points increases to 30 with 2 races remaining, tomorrow's race and then the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Although the Ferrari drivers gave their all over these 100 kilometers, the result is certainly far from satisfactory. The Silver Arrows confirmed their competitiveness in cooler conditions, 6 degrees warmer than during the sprint qualifying, with George Russell on the podium and Lewis Hamilton finishing 6th after climbing to 5th with a great overtaking move on Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari driver, however, responded to his future teammate with a spectacular duel that lasted for 3 corners, ultimately allowing the Monegasque to enjoy keeping the 7-time Formula One world champion behind. Ferrari struggled at the start, with Carlos Sainz experiencing a double loss of traction in the first corner. Charles Leclerc, who was right behind the Spaniard, had to lift off and fall back behind his Maranello teammate, while Lewis Hamilton took advantage of an excellent start to move ahead. The Scuderia lacked the necessary tire temperature at the start of the 19-lap race, missing the opportunity to attack Mercedes with both cars. However, the Ferrari cars found a good rhythm later, enabling Charles Leclerc to set the fastest lap with a 1.23.923. If the Maranello team hopes to keep their championship aspirations alive, they must improve their starting grid position for the Qatar Grand Prix later, as the SF24 has shown it can deliver strong race pace.